Just in 3 days, so many things have happened in the Middle East. First, there was a British vessel hit by supposedly Iranian-tied rebels, the Houthis, and burned the ship. Then a missile aimed at the U.S. ship was fired, and now a drone attacked a U.S. base in Jordan on the border of Syria and actually killed a few U.S. soldiers and wounded more than a dozen. It looks like the situation is really escalating. There are all kinds of accusations against Iran, especially the U.S. is talking about how all these attacks are from forces that's tied to Iran and supplied by the Iranians, and the weapons are provided by the Iranians. At the same time, they claim that they will take aggressive counteraction. We will see whether or not that happens, because that could lead to a conflagration, a real escalation of the tension into war in the entire Middle East. What does all this mean? I think it means, first and foremost, to me, it seems incredible that farmers from Yemen, the Houthis, have become a force that the U.S. is having difficulties dealing with. It shows how much weakened the U.S. has become in global affairs, in their former hegemonic position, how much that has declined. I think it's very clear that they're really caught, because any further escalation will mean a direct confrontation between the U.S. and Iran, and that would be very serious. It could lead to nuclear outbreak all over the Middle East, potentially other parts of the world. Since they've lost all moral high ground because of their support of Israel in Gaza, I think what is going to be very difficult for them is to justify serious counteraction against forces that's supporting the Palestinians, who are now taking various countermeasures against American interests and Israeli interests. So I think the first thing it shows is the weakening of the U.S. in terms of its positioning in the world, especially in the Middle East. The second thing it shows is that increasingly, U.S. cannot play one Middle Eastern country against another. Normally, in previous decades, when things happen that the Iranians have been accused of doing, the U.S. can always use the Saudis, UAE, and possibly others as proxies against Iran. But now it seems like the mediation done by China in terms of restoring diplomatic and normal relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia has precluded the possibility of U.S. using one country against another in the Middle East to create problems. So that's the second part. And the third part, which can be considered also quite serious, quite important, is the fact that on a global basis, it's becoming quite clear that the military forces of the U.S. are no longer as dominant as they used to be, and its allies, like the UK, are also weakening significantly. So the threats of U.S. military dominance, the threat of U.S. military action will no longer carry the weight that it used to. So I think overall, the situation is reflective of the decline of the U.S. in political power, in military power, and in diplomatic power. If circumstances continue as they do, it will be very, very difficult for the U.S. to further accept escalation, because it would just embarrass them more. So I think it looks like it's escalating, but it's unlikely to really further escalate significantly. It will be just guerrilla warfare against the U.S. and making them feeling very, very uncomfortable, because there's very little that they can do